It is the start of a new calendar year, and I'm letting you know that the first thing I want everyone to do is to sit down today, wherever you are across Australia. The man right next to me is, of course, Frank Grief, who is the newest CEO of the two companies that have come together, Campaign Track and Real Hub. And today we are going to be talking about the modern listing presentation. And I'm going to go through and show you the steps that are going to get a vendor want to list with you, not because you're the cheapest, not because you're giving free marketing, but because you have delivered an irresistible, unstoppable listing presentation that is going to show the vendor they will get more money listing with you and that they're going to be able to sell their property in the shortest possible time. As this is going stream live on Facebook, thousands are watching on Facebook now. On Zoom, we've got over 300 participants. Frank,
boom, let's do it. Going? I'm doing good.
Mate, I am so pumped today, and the reason why is I've got a number of my clients, including Tom Hector, who is one of the best real estate agents in the country, has been over 200 sales a year. He's a beast. He's a beast. Tommy Hector, if you're watching this, a big shout out to everyone in Adelaide, a big shout out to everyone across Australia. There are people in New Zealand. There are Kiwis there. Okay, gang, I want to apologise personally to Jacinta Ardern. We've had to close the bubble up for a few days while we sort out what's going to happen with that COVID case. But Frank, I've just come into your new offices. When did you move in here?
We moved in 2 weeks ago.
Man, this place here feels like it's a sort of thing you go into San Francisco, you know, what do they call the valley there?
Yeah, there's Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley there, here in DY, yes. DY by the valley, right? So Frank, our plan today is to go through a listing presentation.
Yes.
You've been kind enough to actually co-pilot with me because we are going to do maybe a role play throughout the process.
Yep,
and we're also going to talk about, you know, the new listing presentation. We live in a world where consumers are time poor, they're tech savvy, and they know the price of everything, but they know the value of nothing. And Frank, what I've learned is all of a sudden, the old pre-listing kit, which used to be a box tied up with a ribbon, yes, with lots of brochures and all these testimonial letters in there and all this mumbo jumbo, was not being consumed by the modern vendor. The modern vendor, what they do is they get a text message on their phone, they press yes, they watch what's on there, they might give it a minute or 2 minutes. That's how they operate, and I'm pleased to let you know we're going to show you how you can execute that. So Frank, we might start off, I think we've got everyone up here. So I'm very clear on, you probably can't see him, but on my right, I've got Ollie, who is my videographer. Yes, I use this organisation for my videos. Why? Because I have had a history with this company. Do you know that for 25 years? Did you know that? I 25 years. Crazy. 25 years I've had a history with them. They know real estate. They've got the best of the best in the business, including Ray Whites and Bill. Matthew Hayson, big user of this product. Anyway, let's get the show on the road. Guys and girls, the first thing I want you to do is to understand, for me, there are 3 parts to the listing presentation. Let's be super clear. There are 3 parts to the listing presentation. 30, 40, 30 is the proportion I give it. 30% happens before the listing presentation, 40% happens at the listing presentation, and then 30% happens post the listing presentation. And I want everyone to understand that there are 5 reasons. That's right, get your pen out. There are 5 reasons. Jesus, Ollie's on the ball. He heard me say the number and he moved over to the next slide. There are 5 reasons why someone is going to list. Frank, the research out there on why a vendor is going to list with another person is very, very clear. There are 5 factors. You want to have a guess at one of the factors?
Jeez, you put me on the spot there. I want to say commission. Got to be one.
Okay, guys and girls, I've got great news. Frank got that one wrong. It's not in there. It's not in there. And that's a very valid point, because a lot of the people that are watching this video are saying, but Tommy, we've got another agent that charges 1% in our market. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, hello, Australia, New Zealand. That's normal. There is always someone cheaper. Understand that. And here's the first piece of dialogue I want to give everyone watching this down the camera. Please understand. What vendors want is the most money in their pocket, not necessarily the cheapest agent. You've got to be super clear. And one of the pieces of dialogue I want everyone to jot down now is this: Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, the cheapest agent and the best agent is generally not the same agent. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I've got to let you know, one of the questions you've got to ask yourself is, what's more important to you? The risk of over-investing by a few grand, or the risk of underselling by 100 grand? Guys and girls, as I go through this presentation today, you're going to realize that for me, scripts and dialogues are telling the truth efficiently. Scripts and dialogues are telling people something in 10 seconds, not 5 minutes. Roger Federer gets paid for the way he hits a tennis ball. Ronaldo gets paid for the way he kicks a soccer ball, and in real estate, you get paid for how you deliver the words that have an impact. Now, gang, here are the 5 reasons why people are going to list with you. Number 1, because you listened to them. Number 2, because you understood their problem. Number 3, because you solved their problem. Number 4, because they liked you. And number 5, because they trusted you. If you've got the first 4, but you don't have the 5th, you got a problem. Because at the end of the day, trust is your superpower in 2021. Now, Ollie, I might get you to move on to the next slide here. And the reason is that I want you to understand that not all listing presentations are the same. And in fact, I'm going to say to you, as this slide comes up here, I want you to look at those words going up vertically. ISA, Frank, stands for immediate seller appointment. FSA stands for future seller appointment. On the bottom, you've got what looks like a cold emoji. And on the right, you've got a sunny one. That stands for cold, hot. Hot means that there's a relationship there. Cold means that there is no relationship. And I want you to look at where the ideal real estate presentations are is what I call high ISA, which means that they're an immediate seller. They're selling, they're coming on the market. They're coming on the market in the next 30 to 60 days. And then FSA is people that are coming on the market, Frankie, in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And that's why I believe the price check document that we're going to talk about that allows a vendor to get a price check every, whether you do it every 6 months, the point is what you want to do is to become their agent before they need an agent. So when they need an agent, they've got an agent. You already have that relationship. By the way, up on the left-hand side, you can see the words catch and kill. Catch and kill. And what I might do is get you to come off that slide and just show me and Frank again so I can speak to that audience and go down the barrel and let you know. The catch and kill listing, there's no relationship. The opportunities come up. You're out there at the property. I've got to tell you, that listing is not going to be 144 to nil. That listing is going to be a fine line. They're going to call 3 or 4 other agents over. You're one of the 3 of the 4, and you've got a short time to actually nail it. That is quite different to the listing presentation where you've got a relationship. When you've got a relationship, man, that's not a listing presentation. You're not on The Voice. It's not an audition. It's the chat to list. Can you slow down, Tom? But we'd like whatever coffee you're on, mate.
It's a good stuff. Yeah.
Breathe.
Good energy. I think it's the office. It's the space you've...
Breathe, Tom. Sorry. I'm just pumped and excited, as you can tell. This is good stuff.
Yeah, it's good. It's the local.
He likes my stuff. Thank you. That's the pause I needed. Now, Frank.
Yes.
I want to talk about the chat to list presentation. Mm-hmm. And the chat to list presentation, there's already trust in the relationship. You're not sitting there saying, here's my next slide, here's my next slide.
Yes.
You're just having this informal conversation with people. So that one there is a lot different to the one that you go in, there's no relationship. Now, I want to touch on the most important part of any listing presentation for me, Frank, is the pre-list.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because in the pre-list, you have a conversation with someone on the phone, and what happens is you can work out what keeps them up at night.
Yep.
You can work out, are they an immediate seller or are they a future seller? You can sort of work out what price they're hoping to get. Because I can tell you, Frank, understanding what number they're thinking is going to make your life a lot easier.
Yep.
Even when people say, but we've got no idea. That's a lie. Of course they've got an idea. It's their biggest asset that they've got. They've probably sat there on realestate.com, domain, looked at everything. They have got a rough idea. There's only one issue. Generally speaking, it's an inflated idea. Most vendors, Frank, think that their home's better than others.
Yes.
Most people think they've got the best looking kid,
Yes.
right?
There's been studies on that, it's true.
Correct. So, Frank, I can't stress the importance of what I call the pre-list. And the pre-list is when someone calls you for a conversation, and I want everyone to pay attention. The thousands on Facebook and those that are sitting here on Zoom right now, listen to the dialogue and language when the phone call comes in to actually go in and do an appraisal. So Frank, you're a vendor,
Yes.
you're thinking of selling, you're calling up, and I want to actually just show you how that conversation pans out. So ring, ring, hello, can I help you?
Hello Tom, it's Frank here. I'm looking to sell my home at the moment. I've seen your name on realestate.com. What's the process?
Frank, fantastic. Can I just quickly ask you, Frank, whereabouts are you?
I live in DY.
You live in DY, and what's the actual address?
It's 4 Clark Street.
4 Clark Street. Great, that's a great street. It's actually got some good transport right around there. Frank, just a couple of questions, if it's okay. Could I ask you, could you just give me a very quick description of the property?
Yep, no problem. It's a 3-bedroom home, double garage and 1 bathroom, and we've got a beautiful pool.
Fantastic. And have you done much work to the property since you bought it?
We did a major renovation 2 years ago.
Okay. And as I'm speaking to you, I've actually just brought up on my database system and CoreLogic RP Data and Price Finder, I've actually just brought up number 72 Clark did sell, which is down the road from you. It sold about 4 months ago. It sold in September.
Yes.
Do you know that house? Did you see it?
I did. Myself and my wife walked through. Ours is much better, much nicer. We did a better job renovating.
Okay, and can I ask you, when you looked at that property compared to yours, it was the renovation that was the difference? Is there anything else? Size was the same?
I think it was about the same size. It was just really the renovation. Ours is much higher quality finishes.
Yeah. Well, I'm pleased to also let you know, Frank, that your property is sitting on 720 square metres.
Yes.
And I've actually got that exact looking at it now. That other property had 711 square metres. So yours is a touch bigger. By the way, do you know what that property sold, or would you like me to tell you?
I can't really remember. Remind me.
Okay, that sold for $2,450,000.
Yep.
So as part of the process, when I come out to give you an idea of what your home is worth, I intend to bring properties that have sold previously. They're called comparable sales, Frank, and I intend to go over those with you. I'm thinking, based on what I've seen so far, of bringing sales from around 2.5 to 3 million. Mm-hmm. Is that a wide enough spread for us to be looking at?
I saw another one down the street sold for 3.2, and I think it's probably more similar to ours. So I don't know if that's enough.
Okay, so Frank, what I'll do is I'll bring sales from 2.5 to 3.5.
Yep. Okay.
And we can go over all of those sales.
Yep.
And also, can I ask you, have you sold a property before?
We have. We sold one about 7 years ago.
Okay, and how did it go?
It went really well. We got the price, but the agent wasn't very good we were dealing with, but yeah.
An auction or private treaty?
Private treaty.
Okay. And out of role play, gang. I've pressed the pause button and I want to do a bit of an analysis of what's just come out of that conversation, right? The first thing is, we know that this guy now is thinking his house is worth 3.2. That's extremely useful. The reason you have this conversation on the phone is very simple. If you don't get a price off the phone, once you get to the property and you say, yes, Carolina, of course they're excellent. They've been worked on for 34 years, Carolina. So what I was going to say, Frank, the reason I ask those questions is if I don't get a price off you, and I show up to your house and I say to you, how much are you hoping to get? Your most likely response is, you're the expert, you're here now. Whereas you can't say that to me over the phone because I haven't seen the property, right? Now, the other thing is, I'm moving in now to this critical question, back into the role play. Okay, so Frank, so I'll bring sales from 2.5 to 3.5, and did you say you sold by auction or private treaty?
Private treaty.
Private treaty, okay. And the next thing I want to ask you is, have you made the decision that you will be appointing an agent in the near future?
Not yet. We've got 3 agents coming in and you're one of them.
Guys and girls, that question, nail it, brain tattoo it. It's the question that works out, are they an immediate seller appointment or a future seller appointment? I'll say it again. Frank, have you made the decision that you will be appointing an agent in the future? And his response was something, oh yeah, we've got 3 other agents coming in and then we're going to see. This guy's selling! He's coming on the market! It's grand final day! I've got to forget about everything. I've got to forget about my live stream. I've got to forget about signing off on the marketing. It's all about getting this business. There's a $50,000 fee on the line and I've got to be tuned in. This is my grand final. This is my grand slam. Okay, Frank. Sorry, to the person that said earlier on I get carried away. Yes, you got to tame it down. You don't do what I'm doing at a listing presentation or they're going to say, go on decaf, pal. Right. So Frank, my intention is to come out and see you. Apart from yourself, who else is involved in the decision?
My wife, Holly.
Okay. And can I ask you, weekdays are better or weekends?
Oh, I'm pretty busy, so Saturday morning would be best.
Are you both available on Saturday?
Yep, I'll make sure we're both available.
Okay, so what time would suit you, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, okay. I'm going to put that down, 9 o'clock, I'm going to see you. Now, Frank, can I get a text message and an email off you?
Yep, no problem.
You take it down. What I'm going to do is within 10 minutes, I'm going to be sending you a very easy to read document that's going to tell you a little bit about us, a little bit about the process, and it's just going to help us have a meeting that's shorter than normal, and it's going to give you a lot of information to help you move forward. Now, what do you prefer, SMS or email?
Oh, definitely SMS.
SMS? Okay. So within 10 minutes, you're going to get a text message. I'm also sending you an Outlook calendar appointment that's going to fall into your diary so you don't have to remember exactly what time. And I look forward to seeing you there at 9 o'clock on Saturday.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Gang, I'm coming out of our discussion. Let's quickly go over what happened there. We found out this guy wants 3.2. We found out that him and Holly are decision makers. We found out that they have sold another property for, and it doesn't sound like they were over the moon with the agent, which is good news for me. We also found out that this guy here is seeing other people. I'm going in at 8 again. Okay, Michael, you go in at 8 a.m. and I'm going to be sitting on that door knocking, putting the pressure on you, right? So, Frank, now, outer role play.
Yes.
Guys and girls, here's what I'm excited about because, and Ollie, we're going to get you to get ready for us to actually show that up on the slide.
Yep.
You have got, Real Hub, Campaign Track, have put together a product which is a killer pre-list.
Yes, correct.
It is not an experiment. It is being used. It is being used by the best of the best, right? It's being used by the best of the best.
Correct.
And would it be okay for me to actually talk about this pre-list document?
Yes, of course.
Okay, should we bring that up, Ollie?
On the website, Ollie?
Yep, we'll just bring that up. And what I want to talk about is the big attraction to me is that it is something that can be sent by text.
Yep.
Texting is really big in real estate. And can I just ask you, Well, firstly, tell me a little bit about it, and why would you send a digital pre-list instead of a printed pre-list?
Yeah, cool. So, two questions there. First one, what is it? So the idea is from any device, mobile, tablet, computer, whatever the agent prefers, they can jump online and they can put together a pre-list really quickly. Now the key here is speed, right? Because the agent just needs to be immediately after that phone. The whole thing is 30 seconds later, 2 minutes later, they get something on their, straight away the vendor gets that link to their thing. So what I've found is a lot of our clients, they'll be making their calls with their computer, they'll have the device open, and when that that moment comes in, I'm going to go see you, they create one straight away. So that's what it is. The second element is why move away from the traditional box and candle kind of thing. I think the reality is, and you've touched on it before, is speed is the new currency, right? And it's like, you can go and hand deliver something, but the reality is, people are going to be at work, right? So you might do the hand delivery 2 hours later, but then no one's at home. You might go through all that effort, send someone out. It's expensive, and you always then need a PA or someone who's doing this for you, where if you send it out, it's immediate, right? And the key, Tom, is when the vendor opens this link up, this pre-list, and we always encourage you SMS it out. Not everybody's reading their emails. You SMS it out to them. When they open it up, you get a notification by SMS back that they've opened up the presentation. And that's the immediacy where if you just deliver something and it might be on their front door, you don't know, you might have to check in a little bit later. The key here is you SMS it, they open it up, you get notified, and you know that they're interacting with it right then and there.
Gang, and I'm letting you know, we can move off that now, get us back on the camera, Ollie. Thank you. Gang, listen to me very carefully. I've got a number of clients in the real estate gym that tell me they absolutely adore and love the feature that when the client has opened up the pre-list document, that they get a notification. It means that the client's engaged. I'm not saying that you're going to sit there and be stalking them. I'm not saying you're going to ring up and say, guess what? I just saw you reading our document. There was a question there, what platform do you use for the pre-list?
Yes, so you log into either Campaign Track or Real Hub, and from there you can create the document.
Okay, fantastic. Now, what I want to talk about, Frank, is this. How many pages is the document normally?
Yep. So what I find with the pre-list specifically, you're not going to make it too unique to the specific vendor because you want to send it out fast. Right. So I find average of our clients is around about 10 pages, which is more about you as an agent, your brand, maybe some comparable sales that you have done recently and some case studies with a bit of social proof. And that's it, short and concise, because the reality is you just want to get it out really fast to them.
Okay, perfect. Ollie, I might get you to move to slide number 7, which is discussion point slide. Thank you so much. We might go into share screen mode so we can see it. Beautiful, perfect. Gang, there we go. Thank you so much. Perfect, we're on. So, gang, I want you to understand that this is a topic I want to touch on now. So number one, and by the way, I'm letting you know that for me, there are in fact 3 documents that you've got to make sure they are at Vogue style, right? When I say Vogue style, I'm not talking something that's come out of, a cheap printer. I'm talking about something where someone's going through it on their iPad. They're sitting there and they're saying, that's quality. And don't forget this, what Frank said, speed is a new currency. You've got to be faster, sharper, better. And even if you're competing against some of the biggest brands, remember, fast beats big. Fast beats big. Now, I want to talk about these discussion points because, Frank, I always get asked, by real estate agents, Tommy, I'm confused about the listing presentation. I don't know whether I should actually, do 2 presentations or 1, whether I should actually go in and do a tour of the property or whether I should actually sit down. They also asked me whether they should be talking about the commission at the first presentation. Yep. What do you do when someone's not ready to make a decision? Do you give them your fee? Do you give away your power? What do you say when you're up against a dominant agent? What do you say when you're up against a weak agent? And I'm also going to tell you what to do. Larry the liar that goes in and says, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I've got to tell you, I think I'll get $1 million for your house when it's only worth 700. Here's the deal. Here's a piece of advice. Use metaphors. Why don't you say this to a vendor? Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I've got to tell you, if a real estate agent came over and guaranteed you 40 days of sunshine, would you believe them? No. Well, I've got to tell you, it's no difference in real estate. Don't underestimate a real estate agent that comes in to actually tell you a high price just to get the listing. An agent doesn't control the weather, and an agent doesn't control the market. The market sets the market. At best, an agent can influence the market. And Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I've got to let you know that it is the process and not the promise of a price that's going to get you top dollar. What I'd like to do is to sit down and go over the process. Ollie, let's stop sharing. Oh, we're not on share screen now. I'm going down the barrel. Okay, guys and girls, here is the next tip that I'm going to give you on a listing presentation. Stop share, perfect. Here is the next tip. The next tip I'm going to give you is every real estate agent needs an agenda. You need an agenda. You've got to be able to go in, and I'm not saying have a scripted presentation, I'm talking about a structured presentation, right? I don't want you to be a parrot, but I do want you to have some structure. And here is your agenda. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I've got to let you know, when I get called out to look at properties in DY, I'm normally asked about the following. They want me to cover the price. They want me to cover the method of sale that works best in this area. Auction for sale, expressions by interest. They also want me to cover how long it's going to take to sell. They want me to cover our fee. They want me to cover our marketing. They want me to cover a little bit about me and my company. Is there anything else you'd like me to cover today? Frank, when you've got an agenda, it keeps you structured, right? But guys and girls, get your pen out, take notes on this. This is the killer question that you've got to ask at a listing presentation at some point. Here it is. Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, if you picked the perfect agent and the campaign went brilliantly and you gave it a 5-star review at the end and you were over the moon, could you describe in your eyes what that would look like for you? And shut up. Frank, they're telling you what they want to hear. Ask the damn question, right? Move away from a statement-based presentation and have a question-based presentation. And I'm letting you know that this agenda needs to be had at some point. But I want to talk about these contentious issues. The first issue I want to talk about, Frank, is do you have, when you walk into the house, whether you actually do a tour, or whether you sit down first. What do you reckon my preference is? I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you reckon?
I would like to think do a tour, because then you can, and then, you know, as you shape your presentation, you're shaping it around to the home that you've just walked through. But I've been wrong before, Tom.
Okay, guess what? Frank's got another cross. Frank's got another cross. And that's why Frank's the CEO of a media agency, and he's not doing the real estate work. But the truth is, Frank, what you said, 50% of there are agents that prefer the guided tour. Can I tell you why I prefer the sit-down talk? If you go in and sit down with someone, what happens is they can't ask you, what's it worth? Because you haven't seen it yet. The tour might take you 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, they sort of want to find out, they want to hear that number. That's all they want to come out of your mouth. But if I sit down with you, I can say, Frank, is it okay if we just sit down for a few minutes before you take me for a tour? You say, sure, we sit down. Frank, you received the text message that had that information?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Frank, what I'd like to do right now is, if it's okay, ask you a few more questions. Help me understand more about your situation. Help me understand more about the property. And at the end, if I can help you today, I'm going to tell you what we do and how we do it. If I can't help you, I'll tell you as well. I need you to know right from the outset, it's totally cool if the only thing that comes out of today is that I've just met another owner in my area. I've got to say, Frank, if you have that conversation, it takes away the commission breath, it gives them safety, and then you get chatting. Guess what? 15 minutes goes by and you still don't have to tell them what the home's worth. You're building rapport. That's the reason why I've got a preference to actually doing sit down first, right? The next contentious issue that people ask me about is whether they should do it in one visit or two visits. Well, let me tell you, if there's trust in the relationship and you play golf with the people and they love you, guess what? Probably one visit. But if they're meeting you for the first time, man, you need to have more trust. And frequency builds trust. So more touch points is going to help. And also, Frank, what I'll say is that when you come back a second time, which I would in this instance, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Frank, because you said to me, I'm calling another 3 out.
I did.
So in the back of my head, I'm thinking, hey, I want to make sure that I have a crack at this last. Right? So now that you've told me that, on the Saturday when I show up at 9 o'clock, I'm going to sort of suss out from you when's the last appointment.
Yep.
And if I realise that someone else is coming today on the Saturday at say 4 o'clock, I'm going to then try and get another opportunity to come and see you on Monday.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, you want to be the last.
I want to be the last because it's really hard to sign someone up if they say, oh, I like everything that you've said, but I'm still seeing someone.
Yeah.
What are you going to say? Don't see them, please. Don't. You can't do that, right? So guys and girls, that's the reason I say one visit, two visits. It's a contentious issue. The case for no fee.
Yep.
I want to talk about the case for no fee. Frank, hypothetically speaking, let's assume I came and met you and Holly.
Yes.
And you loved me, but you weren't ready to do business with me. What I would do, I would say this to you. Everyone, this is gold. What if they list with the earlier presentation? Good question, new. Good question, new. And my advice is, when you're going in for a second presentation, what you say is, Frank, what I'd like to do is go back to the office and do some further due diligence. I actually want to get some of my team members involved because I want to come back and have a really serious and accurate recommendation. This is going to take me some time. I don't want to go to that trouble if you go off and actually, press the green light with someone else. Would it be okay to let me present?
Yes. Okay.
That's what you do, new. And it's a good question. You're paying attention, right? So, Frank, the thing I was going to tell you now is about when I would hold back the fee.
Yep.
Now, there's a guy called Shane Brocklebank, and by the way, he will be speaking at ARIC. He is, I would say, arguably one of the best agents in Australasia. Writes about 3 million in GCI, in New Zealand, in the Wellington area. Gang, listen to me very carefully. You know what he says, Frank? He does the best presentation. He gets them to fall in love with everything. But if he knows that they're not ready to sign, he says, Frank and Holly, I've now met you. I've seen your property. It's beautiful. I want to represent you. I'm not going to let fee get in the way of me getting this business. So what I'm going to do in this instance is I'm going to make a recommendation that you propose a fee that you're comfortable with. And I'm sure we'll be able to work with that. Guess what, gang? That actually stuffs up the whole equation. Why? Because they've got an Excel document and they've put down one agent 2%, one agent 1.5%, one agent at 2.5%. Guess what? They've got no fee for you.
Yes. Love it.
And what happens is they want to list with you.
Yeah.
So what do? They ring you up and they say, hey, we wanted to keep that conversation going. Guess what, Frank? Often they will propose a fee better than what your walk-away fee was. So guys and girls, I've got to say to you, that's the case for no fee. Now, a couple of other questions before we move on to a very important thing, and that is giving them a really high-quality proposal. And that is this. Listen to me very carefully. When you're up against a very strong, dominant agent, you've got to work your strengths and outsource your weaknesses. So, Frank, one of the questions I'm often asked by people is, hey, how do you handle, you're up against an agent that is really dominant, that sells a lot of properties. Let's assume that they're the rock, and every area's got a rock star agent, right?
Absolutely.
This is what I think you should say. And this works even when you are a real estate agent that is brand new. Listen to this. Bottle what I'm about to say. Frank, I'm letting you know, this is me in role play, right? Yep. Frank, I'm letting you know that I've only been in real estate a relatively short time. The office I work for has got a collective years of experience between the agents of 120 years. When you list with me, you list with we. It's the team.
Yep.
The second thing is, I've made the decision right from the outset that I'm not going to be an Aldi or a Coles. I'm going to list less properties, but I'm going to give them more attention. I might not sell the most homes, but I sell the homes the most. And I want to let you know that the value to you is that when you list with me, you get me. I'm at your open. I speak to every buyer. I'm involved in all negotiations. I report back to you. I don't outsource it to a young assistant. I'm liable. Not only that, if I come across a buyer that's got $1 million to spend, they're emotional, they really want to buy your property. Actually, $1 million's not the number. In this instance, let's say 3 million.
Yep.
If I've got a buyer that's got 3 million to spend, they're madly in love with this area, they need to buy straight away. I'm not going to have 20 listings trying to find out which one I'm going to sell. I've got you. Not only that, I'm a new agent. I've got to prove myself each and every day in the marketplace. Frank, I've got to tell you, there is not going to be a real estate agent in this marketplace that's going to work harder for you than me. When can I get to work? Guys and girls, when you're new, you work your strengths. When you're experienced, man, you work your strengths. Let me give you an example of what that looks like. Frank, I've got to let you know, I've been in real estate for 25 years in this market. I'm selling 150 properties a year. In fact, at any one time, I've got 40% market share, which basically means that the person that's going to buy your home is going to talk to me at some point. And that basically means they're going to ask me things like, what do I think of that street? What do I think of that value? So in many ways, every buyer that buys property here comes across me. With that in mind, I would love to be representing you. I'm going to be asked about your property, and I would rather be talking to them about your property as me as your agent than me not as your agent. Now, you can't be too cocky the way you say it, Frank, right? But you've got to get the message across that at the end of the day, you run the town. Work your strengths, outsource your weakness, and as for the fact of competing agents, the agents that go in overpriced, let me just tell you, as far as I'm concerned, there are 3 prices in real estate, and the way that you're going to handle price is just like this. Listen in, gang. This is how you handle price at a listing presentation. So, Frank, let's assume, this is a short version, by the way. Frank, let's assume that you and Holly were there.
Yep.
Frank, you mentioned a figure of 3.2 on the phone the other day, you know, and I got to tell you, I feel comfortable marketing the property at that.
Yep.
Until we start getting buyers coming through, I don't know exactly what your home is going to achieve.
Yep.
So all I'm going to tell you is that I'm going to head for the stars. Now, out of role play, I haven't said to you, you're going to get 3.2.
Yeah.
I haven't said to you, it's worth 3.2. I've said, I'm going to feel comfortable marketing at that. Gang, do you understand it? You're not a valuer. Your job's not there to value property. Your job is there to show them that you're the best person to achieve the value of a property. And I've got to say to you that one of the killer strategies you've got to have when you're out there listing is what I call introducing the buyer analysis. Frank, the buyer analysis is this. This is where you sit down. Can we have a copy of the pre-let screen? Listen, we're going to make sure we get the best of the best stuff out to you, right? Guys and girls, listen to me carefully. This here is one of the best strategies to actually win business. When I'm sitting with you and Holly, I'll say, by the way, Frank, when I spoke to you the other day, the first thing I did is hopped in my car and came out to, what was it? Clark. For Clark. I came out. You never saw me. I came on the outside. I took some notes. And then I went back and I did a bit of a data analysis. And then, Frank, what I did is this. I went and cross-matched it to every buyer I've come across. And I'm pleased to let you know that I've been able to come up with 4 people that I think are high probs, high probability of buying your home. Okay. There's John and Sarah Smith. They're both lawyers. Their parents live in the street behind you. They want the babysitting. They're emotional buyers. The minute you were to appoint me, I'd be bringing them through. The second buyer is the O'Learys. They've lived in this area for 30 years, and what they need is something that's a little bit bigger. So I'm going to let you know that I'll be bringing them over. Then we've got David and Connie. They love this area because they own the local business. They own the Repco, right? And I want to let you know that as soon as you were to appoint me, before I did anything else, I'd be bringing these people through. Guys and girls, do you understand? Make it seductive for an owner to want to go with you by showing them that you've done a buyer analysis of the existing buyers, describe those buyers vividly. This is going to help you at least get the signature. There's a saying in real estate, never educate without control. And the only time you've got control in real estate is when you've got a signed authority. Now, gang, obviously in the 1 hour that we've got with you together, I can't go through and show you what, full 2-hour presentation looks like, but I am going to give you access to a video that's going to run through commission cutting. We're going to give you access to this presentation. We're going to give you access to some of the slides behind this. But Frank, I want to move on to the second document that's super critical in real estate. And that to me is the actual proposal. So document number 1 is the pre-list. Document number 2 is the proposal. So can I ask you, is the proposal just the pre-list kit with just some extra detail? What's the difference between the proposal and the pre-list?
So,
Ollie, we might get you to, have you got a slide?
Yeah, we'll pull up the proposal. So the key to this is we do not want it to be the same, right? So when we send this out to the vendor, if they see it and the imagery looks the same, or if the whole document looks the same, you're going to lose them because they go like, oh, Tom's just sent it to me a second time, right? So what we need to make sure is it looks different and it hits other messaging. So the other one was all about you, your brand and your business. This one is all about the vendor. Right, so we build these from the ground up. So although we'll show you one today on the screen, you're looking at the pre-list, Ollie, go to the proposal, so the next tab across. Although you're going to see this one today, it's not the same, right? We build it from the ground up, right? And this is all about the vendor, so it's all specific about them. So when they read the proposal, they feel it's about them, not just a generic piece of information. And that's the key. Obviously, the more unique pieces we put in there, the more they feel that this was something you put together for them. Obviously, in the system, we have a lot of smarts that make it that you don't have to just repeat yourself and do it each and every time. A lot of it saves, but we pepper in things like the vendor's address, the vendor's name and details that make the vendor feel like this is about them, not just something generic you found previously.
Okay, and the proposal has got data attached to it. So it's powered by data.
Correct, yes, that's really important. So things like comparable sales. So we have an integration with RP Data and Core Logic to pull through comparable sales, so you don't have to jump onto another system. You've got things like your marketing calendar, you've got case studies, you've got a marketing quote. So you might present to the vendor on this, hey, look, here's a gold, silver, bronze of the different options for your marketing that you include in there. Or it might be, here's a tailored marketing package that we've thought about for your home specifically because it's a beautiful home on the beach, and here's one we did similar. So it's really all about those key driving factors, like those things you touched on earlier, that's going to help.
Okay, Frank, can I ask you, in the proposal, if you weren't to sign it up and they flip through the proposal in 4 days' time, do you get an SMS alert on the proposal?
Correct. Every single time they open it up.
Right.
Now that might seem outrageous, but the key to it and the reason why we want to do it is because let's say they've said to you, Tom, look, at this time, we're not going to go ahead, we're going to hold off. Right. The reality is, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the track, they might think about it again, and you want to be the first person to get that SMS alert when they open it up, because that tells you, okay, they're thinking about it again. And think about you competing with another local agent, they've got a few bits of paper or an email. They're going to have no idea, but you're going to get that instant notification, and that'll put you on the front foot to give them a call.
Okay, so guys and girls, one thing I was going to ask you, like there's so many agents using these proposals, do they all look exactly the same?
Definitely not. So that was a big piece of what we do. We offer different themes and then we can tailor it to the brand, or for certain brands, like you mentioned, there's going to be people on the call with Ray White, there's going to be Bell Properties, or a lot of the big brands, LJ Hooker, we build from the ground up, as well as boutiques we can build from the ground up. Because the key is, obviously, we have good market share. The last thing we want is Tom and Sally to both enter a listing presentation with the same looking document. For us, if that happens, we've failed. One question we have on the screen is it tailored to NZ market? So yes, it is. So in New Zealand, it's just a CoreLogic integration because Price Finder isn't in New Zealand, but everything else can be tailored. We already have a number of clients in New Zealand as well.
Okay. So, Frank, by the way, everyone, I'm letting you know that the price of the pre-list, the proposal, and the last document we're going to talk about in a moment, which is the price update, man, it's not what people think. It's a lot cheaper than what you'd expect. For a couple of $100, you actually get your whole office. It doesn't matter whether there's 5, 10, 15 salespeople, unlimited. For a couple of $100, unlimited use of pre-list, proposal, and also the price update document. Now, some people are going to say, hey, Tommy, you're plugging. Guess what? I am. You know why? Because when you plug something that you know is actually going to help you get business, which means it's going to make you money, it's not a cost, it's an investment in your business, right? And if you're like I know that there is some standalone only agents that don't have their office in it, it's even just a fraction of that. Like it's, less than half of that. Correct. You can actually have it.
So it's a third of that.
It's a third of that. So it's a third if you're just a standalone agent and your office is saying, and that sometimes happens. Sometimes you're a hungry agent that, you're more motivated than the others and the other salespeople don't want to be part of it. But gang, I want to move on now to a few things that I think need to be covered here in the listing presentation, and that is closing. And I want you to understand that for me, and we can move off, we're not on share screen mode, are we? Okay, so I want to just touch on very briefly now on closing. Closing for me is making it easy for a client to say yes. Closing for me is making the client pick you. Closing for me, my friends, is about you taking the conversation and formalizing it into paperwork. And what I might do is share the screen right now if I can, Ollie. I'll share the screen now because I just want to bring in a slide, and it's slide number 11. Number 11. Okay, so for me, closing is all about this. It's about asking a question that's going to help a client sign the paperwork. And for me, here are 4 nice pieces of dialogue that bring you into saying yes. Number 1, the green light. I love this close, and this is how it works. Mr. Vendor, what has to happen today for you to give me the green light? Or another way of doing it is saying, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, if I get you just to okay here, that's going to give me the green light to get the photography going. The second close that I think is extremely useful is the one that's called the what's staying. What's staying? What's staying works like this. What's staying works like, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, can I ask you what's staying with the homes? Curtains, blinds, light fittings, and then you actually just make a note of it. Then the third one, what has to happen? What has to happen? This is very useful when you're at a listing presentation to sit with the vendor and to be saying to that vendor, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, let me just go through it. Today we went through the price, we went through the marketing, we went through the method, we talked about the timing, we talked about my fee, we talked about a little bit about the office and a little bit about myself. Can I ask you, what has to happen today for you to feel comfortable to give me the green light and get these buyers through? Don't forget, a lot of the times what you're doing with getting people to sign off is what they're signing off on, you to introduce those buyers you describe, because often you're going to be doing a phase 1, phase 2 presentation. Phase 1 is where you actually do a very soft launch, where you bring buyers through, and then phase 2 is when you go out to the broader market. So, gang, I want to talk about the situation where, and that does happen, Frank, where you do all of this.
Yep.
but they're not coming on the market yet, right? They hold off. They decide that they're going to wait till Christmas, or they decide that, they're not being relocated as they thought, or whatever, right? I want to ask you, we're not on share screen mode? No? Okay, I want to ask you, Frank, the document which is the third document that you offer is the price update document.
Yes.
So this is for someone that's staying in contact with a vendor and on a regular basis, might be every 6 months, giving them an update on what's happening in the market. Yes. Just help me understand more about the price update document.
Yeah, so the key is, again, it needs to look different, right? It needs to not just look like you've regurgitated the same thing you told in the pre-list and the proposal, but really it's a smaller, tailored version of the proposal without all the, we're putting it onto the market, all that stuff that gets that urgency. It's more about, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, this is how your property is tracking in the current market conditions. Right. Think about that as today's date. So much has changed since last year, right? So it's a soft touch. It might be something that pops up in your database. You're going to give them a call. On the phone call, you're going to mention to them, do you mind if I just send you what's happening at the moment in terms of comparable sales and how the market's trending? We pull through suburb data from Price Finder in terms of how the market's been trending over the last year, 5 years, whatever you want, and then you're just showing them where their property's at, and then a few comparable sales again for that idea of social proof. And that is the price update. And that one thing I want to mention, Tom, is these are 3 example documents, but the way we build the platform is we can do anything. So it doesn't have to fit into these 3 categories. So if you wanted to do a suburb version, so you used to do a printed suburb booklet and put it down into letterboxes, you might do a suburb booklet that's digital through the system as well. So you can do all different types of templates, and it really stops at where your imagination stops.
Okay. Guys and girls, by the way, if you are interested in exploring having BIW, best in the world documents for your listing presentations, pre-list proposals, and post-listing presentation updates, go to realhub.com.au/proposal. So realhub.com.au/proposal. And also those of you that want to get more scripts and dialogues and more techniques, realestategym.com.au is open to the end of this month for our membership recruitment for 2021. Go to realestategym.com.au. It's $65 a month or $620 a year. I am letting you know that on the 16th of February, the Real Estate Gym is doing its Kickstart, which will be a hybrid event. It will be run in Sydney, but streamed all over Australia and New Zealand. I'm going to have my crew, Ollie and the team that are going to be there streaming the event in Sydney. There'll be some people, we're only going to allow 60 people in live for that because of social distancing. The rest are going to be watching it via live stream. I want to finish off and summarize a few things before we go. Number one, I want to let you know listing presentations are not about you, they're about your client. Number two, I want you to understand you've got to leave your ego at the front door. When you walk into a listing presentation, you've just got to forget about everything and leave your ego at the front door. Number three, I want you to understand if you want to win share of wallet, you've got to win share of heart. Understand that. If you want to win share of wallet, you've got to win share of heart. The next thing I want you to understand, people will forget what you say, but they'll never forget the feeling that you leave them with. It is an emotional decision. The next thing I want to say to you about listing presentations, if you nail your listing presentation and you make that a black belt of listing presentations, if you make it a 10 out of 10, you're going to prospect more. Why? Because you know you've got a weapon that gets you business. And because you know it gets you business, you're prepared to prospect more. So it actually works in combination, not in isolation. I want you to understand prospecting and listing presentations work together. When you know that you've got a great probability of winning that person over, if you can sit there in their home, you're going to end up chasing more business in the prospecting mode. And the last thing I'm going to say, in the world that we live in right now, where the currency is speed, You've got to be faster and you've got to be better than any other agent in the marketplace. And today, this presentation on listings has been brought to you by RealHub and Campaign Track. And I've got to say to you, you have seen something that if you layer great dialogue, if you layer great EQ, if you've got care and compassion, and then you can formalize it by having what I call, rock star documentation at the pre-list, at the listing presentation, and post a listing presentation, you are going to be in the driver's position to win business. To everyone that's watching this, my clients, to the Campaign Track, RealHub clients, I wish you the best year. Frank, so much for being co-pilot.
Appreciate it.
Look forward to working with you. And by the way, apart from the documentation that we spoke about today, they provide some killer videos. Ollie works with me in my videos. Guys and girls, signing off, and never ever forget, always choose to have a future bigger than your past, and never let your personal history get in the way of your destiny. Everyone that watched this video on Facebook, press the share button. I'm going to send out a free coaching product, VPA, the system that I produce with Matt Steinway. I'm sending one away as a free prize if you share the video. Guys and girls, signing off.
Thank you. Appreciate it.